Hello y'all, Happy New Year's. This is Jason once again, and today I'd like to demo my side project known as ScriptBorne. This project I started last month in December and have only spent about a month on it, and it's basically just a crossover between, or at least taking from Bloodborne or any type of Soulsborne games if you ever heard of them, and trying to make a game out of it. So if I'm being honest, it's nowhere near that. If I'm totally way off the park, but I thought it'd be cool at least to attempt to make a game. Very simplistically, and I did it for fun. This isn't a project that's for any course or school, but I'm using JavaScript with the React framework, and the database is a JSON file. I'm not using Python, the Django framework, like I did for Next2Dev. So, a couple disclaimers before we begin. The wallpapers you see here in the background have all been pulled from mowalls.com. I've referenced them in the description, and most of the styling you see right here, this kind of like pixel old-fashioned PS1 styling, is a GitHub repository that I found from a guy on Reddit. So I also put that in the description as well if you want to check it out. Without further ado, let's get started. And here is ScriptBorne. And a QuickTime player. Yeah, this is a report. Okay, sorry. Anyways, so we're going to enter the lands of Brant Run here. And it navigates us to the main view. We have a couple characters. All these characters that you're going to see in this application are based off of friends with their permission. So they're very stylized, obviously. They were created in a pixel art character creator. So there's a bunch of assets and different types of styling you could do in that to create these very interesting looking people. So here's me, a couple other friends, Nola and Burger Queen. If you click on my name here, you get a pop-up window. This was my first time ever implementing pop-ups into an application before. It was very fun learning about how to do so and seeing it work appropriately. Most of the styling, I had to use GPT for some aid. I had a lot of trouble getting stuff to look decent, per se. So GPT and I had plenty of conversations regarding the best way to go about certain functionalities, mainly the styling here. But the pop-up window was very cool to learn about. So you want to go somewhere wacky, you got two options here. You got Brom City or Not I'm Good. And for now, we'll do Not I'm Good. I just want to go over some of the basic stuff first before we delve into the more complex components. So do Now I'm Good. Same thing for Nola and Burger Queen here. They both have pop-ups here. You're going to have an option to attack. I wouldn't do that though, because if you meet somebody for the first time and you attack them, yeah, something's a little wrong with you. So we'll delete for that. Burger Queen as well. Nothing too crazy. And then here we'll go into the character list. And this is pulling obviously from the database.json file that I mentioned earlier. These are all character objects here. So we have the name, class, alignment, image, and lore properties within that object. These are all displayed right there. And upon clicking lore, it expands to show, believe it or not, their lore. So a little background to the character, and you can obviously hide it to minimize that. Nothing too crazy here, but I did spend quite a bit of time making these characters within the Pixel Creator, so I do hope you enjoy these very personal designs. But yeah, moving on, let's go to the weapons here. All these originally were images pulled from Google, and then I used a pixel art converter to change it from a normal looking like toilet to a pixel toilet. So that will also be in the description if you ever want to play around with that. It was very fun having to remove the backgrounds and making it pixelated. So enjoy the Silent Rush, the toilet seat, and the katana, and the greatsword too. So obviously CSS styling used for the hover effect here, just for some pizzazz, nothing too crazy. And then we'll go to the about page, which gives it's kind of just mumbo jumbo. I think I just made this because I wanted to seem like a real little application, but this is not being deployed. Let me go ahead and clarify that. I do not plan on deploying any of this, considering that most of the styling, the wallpapers and everything that I've used have been pulled from somewhere else, have been made by people way more talented than I am. This is all for personal use, and I never intend to publicly advertise or even attempt to make to seem like I made this all from scratch, because that is simply not the case. So another disclaimer is yes, this is all with the help of other people as well, whether or not they know it. But going back to the main view here, let's go into the battle component. So we'll click back on Jason here, and he says want to go somewhere wacky, and this time we'll click on Brom City. So that we'll be navigated to this loading screen here, and another wallpaper, and I actually pulled this Batmobile from Google and pixelated it, had to remove the background, but to make it look like if we were traveling to Brom City, when in fact it's just a still PNG right here upon this moving wallpaper. Very cool, I know, right? Anyways, it's done loading, and then we'll enter Brom City here, and we'll also navigate it to Brom City, where we have our first enemy slash boss of the game called Charlemagne. He's standing menacingly in the middle of the street, obviously blocking traffic. I mean, look, this person's obviously upset at him. Like, what are you doing here? But anyways, to save this person from a traffic headache, we're gonna confront Charlemagne, and he's basically like, "Hey, I'm gonna beat your butt, but let's just see what you're made of." So we're gonna challenge Charlemagne of Dad Castle. Reference to any Blue Mountain State fans out there, my friend loves it. It's obviously his character is based off of him, and we'll be navigated to the combat view here. So here we have our two characters, the player character who I've decided to make I don't know what it's supposed to be, a Smurf, emo, I don't know. Anyways, and then Charlemagne right here. They both have health bars. Our health bar, his health bar, upon, another live wallpaper here. And then within this we have our options as a player. This is a turn-based combat system, meaning this isn't free roam or even traditionally Souls-like, sadly. That would be very, very hard to implement, I believe, at my current level. So this is more of like a Final Fantasy or a Pokemon-based type of combat system. So our options, as you can see, are attack, defend, restore health, and run. Upon attacking, an animation will play from the player and the enemy. The player will shoot a fireball, the enemy will respond with, you'll see what they will respond with. So here comes the fireball, boom, and look, he responds right back with a giant beam. Now before we continue, go ahead and look at this. His health is increased ever so slightly by a certain integer or a number out of his total health. And our health has increased quite a bit, dare I say almost 3 times as much, so he definitely does more damage. And I will definitely go into the code here after we're done with this demo, and I'll explain how this was attained or achievable. It was very fun learning about this, very fun trying to implement it. Like I said, GPT and I had plenty of conversations. One thing I like about GPT, or one thing that I really, really enjoyed doing, was having a conversation with the AI and not asking for an immediate answer, but asking, would this be the best way to implement a certain use state / use effect and set a certain variable with this value and have it change upon this certain action, and what condition would I use for that? So it was a great tool for me to better my knowledge without receiving a simple answer. And yeah, I just want to get that out of the way because I learned a lot of new things from the side project, surprisingly, more than I thought I would. So upon attacking, you see that we can defend right here. Obviously, that takes away our turn, but in exchange, we're supposed to negate a little bit less damage, although the damage you negate is very minimal. As you can tell, we're pretty much almost set already. So let's just say you want to restore health. You want to have a fighting chance. So you'll click on Restore Health. It restores a little bit. Okay, you keep clicking. Sure, we can do this all the way until we're back to full, right? No. You only have 3 uses, and within the code, I'll show you as to how that works. But upon the 3rd use, the button is grayed out to signify that, yes, you can no longer restore health. So you're screwed. Or are you? Maybe you can get a critical attack right here. Maybe the chances will be in your favor and you can land a supreme hit. So, no, that won't happen. I did not program that to be implemented at all. There are no critical attacks. It's just a base value for the attack. So you can keep trying. We'll keep fireballing him until he basically wipes us out. And boom, we have the death screen, which is very reminiscent of Dark Souls or any of those games that you might seen, except this game is a lot less interesting, per se. So, scripts lost, you died. Wow, thanks for saying that. I'm very, very surprised that happened, right? We'll click exit and you'll be navigated back to the main view here. Now, here's another option. Obviously, you saw earlier we could attack Nola Granola. Why would you do that? You're horrible. Anyways, just go ahead and do it. So you'll attack her and then you'll be re-navigated to her view, which is a work in progress. But I wanted to show this because I have her cat here, Chi-Chi, which will be implemented with the battle. Very cute cat. So that's a work in progress, but I just wanted to do a little shout out there. So yeah, that's the main gist of it. The game, quotation marks, isn't anything too crazy, but I do want to look into the code and explain why use effect and use state is so integral to this application and why React as a framework is so popular as it is. Well, my explanations are going to be not as detailed as one might expect, but I just wanted to at least go over some of the code instead of just showing you the application. So this is the battle view for what you saw for the combat between Charlemagne and the player character. Obviously, we have our exported function here and our initial states for our use states here. And what I do want to look at is actually one of our attack functions here, handle attack. So we've defined a constant called handle attack, and within it we have a condition that says basically if it is the player's turn, we shall do this. Now, starting we have the styling here, which is the fireball you saw from the animation. We use CSS to achieve that movement from the player character all the way to the enemy character. And the set fireball true is basically to change the initial state. So you'll see this is the initial state of the fireball. It's actually false right here within our initial value. And within this function, when it's invoked here, the fireball's initial value will be changed to true. Basically, that means it will now be visible, and the animation that we have programmed to display will now display. And we have a set timeout here, and then an example of a useState/setter function. So we have our setter functions here setting our variables with a certain value. So right here on line 33, set enemy health. Now, before we get started, let me go ahead and show you the enemy health right here. The initial value of the enemy health is 100 within this useState, as you can tell. That is its parameter or argument. So now our parameter is basically the enemy health, aka 100, minus the player damage. The player damage, once again, is another initial state here that has a certain value of 10. Sorry, I didn't highlight that way, but here you see 10 on line 13. So with that value, you'll basically do the 100 minus 10, and that will be your new enemy health. And this will be revoked repeatedly as the turns go on, as the player clicks attack and attack. So the next turn, it'll be 90 minus 10, and for so on and therefore. And then here we have the reverting the fireball back to its false initial state, where it'll basically be not visible, or the animation will not play, basically returning it back to its initial value here. And then we end the player's turn by setting the value to false instead of having it to be true. So the timeout here, that's what you saw on line 31. That's just basically the duration of the fireball animation and the turn before the enemy responds. So you can edit that from 5 seconds or 500 here to maybe 1000. But the handle enemy attack is the exact same, except instead of attacking the enemy, it is attacking the player, aka us, and it follows the exact same logic as you would for the player. Another thing is the restore the health functionality that you saw, how we only had 3 restores. Well, that's within our handle health function right here. Once again, another if condition to define when this should be invoked, or when this is basically valid for the player to use or able to use. And that's basically when the health uses, aka so what we call the restores, is less than 3. So we have another setter function here that sets the player health. Basically, the player's health would be 100, and then we have it plus 10, and then it'd be 110. Or actually, you would probably do it after you've been damaged. So let's say your health is around 70. That would be your player health. Previous health right here, previous health plus 10, it'll be 70 plus 10, and now your new health is 80. That explains why when we clicked restore health, we saw our bar go up ever so slightly. You can change the value to be more than 10, obviously, for probably more healing, which would help you win that fight. But that is just a simple implementation right there. And then we have another setter function for the health uses here. So the previous uses are, its initial value is 0. That is the initial value right there. And then upon this setter function, we actually add one value to that initial value. So it would be 0 plus 1 equals 1. And obviously, if you press restore health once again, it'll be now 2 for the previous uses. And then 3, once it reaches 3, it'll no longer be less than 3 right here within our condition. So once that condition is invalid, the restore health or handle health function will no longer be able to be invoked. That explains why the button was grayed out upon clicking it after 3 times. So that's just a simple overview of some of the functions I have here. And obviously we have the JSX that implements the images that I've hard-coded into here, the position using CSS, the player health and enemy health here, and the move sets right here, which are also obviously all functions right here. Like handle escape is using the use navigate from React basically to reroute you to the main page once you click run. And the handle health is what we went over, same thing with attack and defend. So the you died one is another pop-up screen that shows up after the player's health has reached 0. And it gives you basically what you saw over there, like scripts lost, you died, and then when you click exit, that handle pop-up choice function is also another navigate to the main view. So that's the main gist of like the functionality of the combat system, and I just want to go over some of the code because I felt like showing just the application would be a little bit lackluster without explaining why use effect and use state are so integral, because those two are very important when it comes to dynamic data. When your application has already mounted or your component has mounted, if you need data to change or at least be edited upon running while it's running, then use effect is monumental in achieving that. Changing the value of the health bar, attacking, setting basically the initial values from its original like 100 to 90. That's why we use React and use effect and use state. If I were to use JavaScript, most of this would have to be re-rendered, or at least the page wouldn't be able to re-render it as the components already mounted. It would have to be restarted per se. So I know my explanation isn't the most clear one in the world, but I did want to at least explain as to why I decided to use React for this application rather than just trying to hard code a bunch of JavaScript and pray that it would work. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today. Like I said, this was a side project, and despite it being a side project, it definitely took quite a little bit more work than I would have expected. So this is one of the components, but anyways, thank you all for watching, and I hope your year starts off with a wonderful bang. Peace.